seen them talked about in the last 2 years. I think they've been around for a while. A lot of the examples you'll see where somebody's just trying to present a lot of information. It might be a number of statistics. Sometimes it's a timeline. But the idea is you're trying to present a lot of information that if you had to read it in a report, you wouldn't find it very engaging, or only a very small sliver of people would be able to grab it. So the idea is to present the information in a way that is much more visual, and ideally, if you can, entertaining, or at least attractive, so that it's got an aesthetic to go through. And people use them in blogs, where they'll use the statistics and then write about it. People love to pass them around on Twitter and other forms of social media. So the idea is it could be a huge, complex 20 different statistics all on one big page, or it could just be a simple tip, but the idea is that you're using a visual element to make it understandable, and ideally something that someone will want to share. Because if it is that written report, you're going to find someone may read it, but the odds of them passing it on, not quite as great. So every time from you to the next level, there would be a smaller percentage of people that would pass it through. So if you present it, you want to simplify it so that it's understandable. People don't necessarily need to have knowledge of what you're talking about beforehand. That's always the ideal. So what I've got here, this is a project I did for somebody. It's on statistics about women in the workplace and the difference between how women work and men work. They can produce the same results, but to expect a woman to follow the exact same process as a man, they don't. Biologically, it's not compatible. A woman will do it in the way that suits her best, and that's outside of personal learning styles and everything else. So I'm just going to play the video that I created. So that's what I created for her. The idea is that she's an expert or an authority in her field. She's got knowledge that she wants to share. She does a heck of a lot more than this, but this is something that a layperson can understand. And what hers is mainly aimed for is in kind of the corporate workplace, because if you're kind of being gender blind in how you treat your employees, you may not be getting the best work out of them, and everybody ends up being frustrated. So she wants to present the problem, the issues, and the idea is that if you find any of that appealing or interesting, then you would follow up, go to her website, find out more, sign up for a consultation. So the idea is she's presenting herself as an authority. She's got information that is valuable. This may not be for everybody. In fact, it probably shouldn't be, because if you aim for everybody, it's not going to make anybody particularly excited. So the idea is to create content that not only you can share with your direct audience, but something that someone else will look at and say, I like that. I know somebody that needs to know that. Hey, did you see this? And as long as it's done in a way that your name is still attached to it, it's a much more effective sales piece than you going up to somebody and say, here, buy my product, buy my service. You're offering a little bit of knowledge, and if there's enough of a piece kind of the knowledge that's there, you want to know more. That's generally the best way that I've seen to use infographics. There are some where it's just somebody's done the history of rock and roll since the 50s and they'll do it as a timeline. That's just kind of novelty stuff. But if you can apply it and it's not really a sales piece, it's an educational piece. It gives you a way that you can engage with people and potentially attract a new audience that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. So that's pretty much how I'm seeing the infographics, and they can be used a number of ways. I happen to do this one video because I was given a list of, I think it was 9 different statistics, and they didn't really weave into a story. Had they woven into a story, I would have done it all as one kind of big image of a poster. But because it was causing me difficulties, I realized, well, if we did them as slides, they end up standing on their own, but they work well in sequence. So it could just be any one of these slides on their own would be an infographic, and you could do any number of things. You could put it up on Twitter, you could put it up on Facebook, you could put it at the top of a blog post, and then continue to expand on the idea. It's just a different way of creating content that lets you engage with your customers and your audience. The video not so much, but yes, the still slides for sure. For sure.
Careful Pinterest, because when you think that, you lose control of it. You no longer have the copyright for it.
Yeah, but when you're doing something like this, you wouldn't necessarily sell this video. You wouldn't sell your infographic. If your name is on it, and you tell people that as long as that stays on it, the credit that goes to you is on it, I would kind of put that out into the wild and kind of let it go. As long as the original source is still pointed, you don't necessarily worry so much about the copyright.
Right.
But Pinterest, it's good to know, because you don't want to put up anything there that you don't want to be shared. That's the purpose.
Now, one thing that I think of, depending on what people are doing, if you do a trade show magazine, sometimes I've seen people with postcards or bookmarks that have a statistic.
Yeah.
And it's saying, 1 in 3 businesses go out of business within a year. You need marketing help. And then you flip it over and it's got some of the stuff of hire me, I can help you. So it depends on what you're doing. I've seen people already doing this at a different level. It's really effective.
I could see that as beneficial for me. I've done a couple of conferences where I presented, and it's always a real challenge to get beyond looking at all the PowerPoints listed there.
Yeah.
So I could see if that would really wake you up and say a lot more information in a shorter period of time, so you could get on to the interactive exercises of the workshop.
Definitely. And the nice thing is about this is we end up with about a dozen slides for her. If she wants to do it at PowerPoint, she can put up the individual slides and then discuss about it, because the worst thing about doing a PowerPoint presentation is if you're reading it off, and if the audience, especially if your audience feels they have to take notes, they're not going to listen to you.
Right.
If they know that they're going to get a copy of the PowerPoint notes afterwards, then they can put down the paper, listen to you, jot down notes outside of that, or if stuff comes to them, but they're not sitting there in a really bad university class just trying to get everything down. I'll understand it later. It gets frustrating, but yeah, looking for a way to have impact, and whether that's entertainment, emotional, just grabbing their attention.
Yeah. Interesting, because I've done up from all the DICE assessments that I've done so far. I charted the information on an Excel spreadsheet. So now I'm in the process, now that it's summer, and there was a period where I had all these assessments come in, and I'm doing a school crossing guard, and it was just so overwhelming. And now that I have the summer, I'm trying to write down a report so that I can present it in the, I applied for the Connection workshop. So here in September, I'll be able to present at Connection 13, that's employment counseling. We'll see, but that would be a great tool.
And the nice thing is if you've got this information and it would work either in kind of a flow chart or whether it would be a pie chart, there are different ways of representing that information rather than just look, it's a pie chart and this pie comes out. You can show those relationships, like I've seen ones where people are using statistics about people, and you've got a little figure all the way through, and they're all pink until you get to like the last two, and the last two are blue because that's whatever their difference is. It's a different way of presenting it. And the pie chart, you can't really relate to a pie chart.
No.
And there are certain personality types or learning styles where that is much more visceral to them. But if it's not, if you're introducing it to somebody where they're not used to dealing with information in that format, you want to present it in a way that might help them kind of grasp.
I would agree with the internet. You know, your question really simple to the journey. And I did as you said, because it's a lot of easier.
Yes.
One thing I like, Brent, is the infographic you did for this particular customer. A lot of your designs included the theme, so you had pink and blue, ladies and men.
Because that's the way the bulk of the information was presented. So
So
it's
depending on
easily identifiable.
what the theme is, you know, if it's a house and how do you split up your estate, the graph actually might be a house instead of a normal pie chart.
Yeah, to show kind of percentages
So,
or...
you know, houses in different colors for different sections or something.
Yeah, and there are ones
So
where...
that's pretty cool because instead of just using airborne graphs,
Yeah, or random stock images too. The idea was to create a thread all the way through, so that if you took these apart and used them individually, and they were spread across 12 different blog posts, visually you'd know they were related because they're using the same style, the same sorts of icons, the same color scheme, the same fonts. So that's part of the idea too. Is you're creating something that it's a nice design piece. If that's all it is, we're doing it wrong. But if it's a nice design piece and it conveys information, then all of a sudden you've got something that someone else would say, well, I think I'd like to share this with my audience because that will make me look better. That will make, this is information I found, I can be of value to my network by putting it out there. So the visuals too, so this one I went very simple. Initially I'd start off, it was all going to be kind of transportation sort of sign work. That's the gender gap at the beginning, kind of looks like the London subway. That was where I started from. And then it was just trying to simplify. If you're dealing with male and female, you want to keep things kind of basic. So I use kind of the washing sign figures. But with someone else, depending on the topic, if it relates to a time period, we might try and make it look like it came out of the 60s. Or if the audience, if there's somewhere that you can do something that suits the interests of the audience, that would help them engage. If I was dealing with baby boomers, I would present it differently than if I was presenting it to tweens. You would want two totally different styles for presenting the information because they would find different things attractive. Anything that you know about your kind of target audience that would help us kind of narrow it down. And the other thing you want behind it too is this also comes back to branding, is how you want to be perceived. Like for me, all it comes down to is what do you want them to walk away thinking about you. And I kind of try to build that in there so that if they met you in person, like, well, I saw this online. You're exactly what I thought you'd be based on the information you put out. And that's pretty much what the branding thing comes into. I mean, whether it's just this is how you tweet, this is your voice. If somebody comes out into you in person, this should still fit. It shouldn't jar their impression of what you are supposed to be. And whether that's you individually, or your business, or you as your business, that's kind of generally how the branding goes. The logos and stuff are great on top of that, but it all does kind of come down to this is how you're expressing what you're expressing. So, anybody else have any questions?
oh, okay.
So what was your camera? Oh, there's my hands went up in front of the That's okay. That's why you edit.
Well, thank you for this informative workshop, Brent.
No problem.
Really, really good. And on behalf of the Business Meet and Greet, we thank you all. And as they say, good things come in small packages, and it's what's inside that counts. So, although we don't have any material representation today, we certainly have a lot of from the heart. Thank you
have this on YouTube that you can give everybody, send everybody the link so we can help with views
Yes,
and
you know,
Awareness?
I should have it up on my site later today, still using the same YouTube link, but yes, I can pass along the,
because I didn't know for the agenda today.
oh, okay,
I have it here, so when you email it for everybody. And it's an activity for your lunches, your agenda. And then that's good information. Now, I made some notes on it because I didn't change the thing. But you have to see my notes because then I just change it for the notes. Okay. But I do have a nice space to write notes for Branson. Oh, good. And, what I do is I put the link to the YouTube on it. Do you mind if I put a few extra because usually we display them at the
make sure they go around the room first, but yeah, any leftover, and I will have more with me tomorrow as well. So, because that's the end of what I have on my person, but I will bring more to BCX tomorrow.
Okay, then I can take it tomorrow. So I've got people want because I'm just going to break tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, good. Do you have a YouTube account?
I do. This is on my clients.
I realize.
I've got one. I don't have a lot on it yet. But
I get it through you
from tomorrow?
tomorrow so that you can keep on, they can keep on the bus. You can
Yeah.
always be prepared.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm trying again.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
I didn't
okay.
mean to kill you.
Because
Let's search from YouTube. Let's search for Martina show. And get all of these videos.
Well, that was my concern initially, was the mic.
Yes,
Depending on what side of the fan I was on,
Well, the webinar, the mayor had a second, but it was a webinar on compliance. And it starts with minutes. And the person went to drag him at the end.